All right, we're rolling.
Okay, my name is Steve Waller. I live here in Marquette County, and I live north of Marquette, about 12 miles north of town, off of Highway 550, and then 4.5 miles off the blacktop, and 4.5 miles from the nearest power lines. And I've been living off the grid with renewable energy since about the year 2000. My system consists of about 1,200 watts of solar panels on a tracker, and I've got a Whisper 175 wind turbine. And it's called a 175 because it has 175 square feet of swept area. That's the area that the turbine blades occupy in order to make power. And originally it was called the Whisper 3000 because it was estimated to give me about 3,000 watts of power at a 27-mile-an-hour wind. But they've changed it now to swept area, which is a better way of describing the size of the turbine.
So how does your power generation change from winter to the summer months?
Well, I live there year-round, so I have first-hand experience with all of this, and I'm very conscious of how much energy everything is producing because I'm off the grid, and I watch exactly what level my batteries are at because I do have a battery bank, and I watch how much power I'm consuming, and I'm watching how much power I'm producing, and I'm watching where the power is coming from all the time. So in the wintertime, my primary source of power is wind. In the summertime, my primary source of power is sun. And there's a trade-off between the two, and it seems to be about 80-20. So in the wintertime, I would say 80% of my energy is coming from the wind, and in the summertime, 80% of my energy is coming from the sun. And the reason for that trade-off is a couple of numbers, but one of them is that because the days are so much longer in the summertime, that the solar panels just start cranking out way, way, way more power than they do in the wintertime. Where, yes, there's more wind in the winter, and that does produce more power in the wintertime, but it's not that much less wind in the summer. It's just that the solar panels become so much stronger in the summertime that in the wintertime, wind is the primary source.
So you're off the grid. Where does all this power you're generating go to?
I have one bank of lead-acid batteries that are kept in the lower level of the house, vented to the outside for hydrogen gas, but they store about 1,000 amp hours of energy, and depending on our usage, that might last 2 days, maybe 3 from a full charge to where I really need to charge them again. If I had no other source of energy coming in, but because there's usually wind at one point or another, either during the course of the day or over the course of a couple of days, or sun over the course of a day or a couple of days, then I often have those charged up pretty well. In the summertime, I almost can run I can probably run for maybe a month or two and never start the generator. There's also a backup generator in case everything else fails. But in the summertime, I can go very long periods of time and never start that generator, which means I'm essentially 100% renewable energy for most of the summer. In the wintertime, if everything's working, I might have, the generator might run every week or two, something like that. But it's highly variable because of the weather conditions.
Okay. Do you ever have any excess energy you have to do anything with?
Well, again, I have way more energy in the summer than I do in the winter. So in the summer, that often happens. The solar panels, if my batteries are full, and this is one of the limitations of batteries, because once your batteries are full, you can't do anything with the rest of your energy. Now, in a wind system, you can't just say, well, unplug the wind turbine, because then the turbine will run away and destroy itself if it does not have a load. So you have to load your turbines down all the time. So if my batteries are actually full and I'm not storing that energy anymore, then I have to take and do what is called a dump load on the wind turbine. And meaning that I load it down, even though I'm not putting the power in the batteries, I have to load the turbine down with something to keep the thing from overspeeding. Initially, I run that dump load into my hot water tank, and so it heats water. And if my hot water tank is full of hot water already, where the thermostat's going to be shutting off, Then I actually have another external heater that just heats air and dumps it into the air. But I always must have some sort of a load on the turbine at all times.
It would be nice if those wires were a little closer to your house out there, huh?
What, for the grid?
Yeah, you could sell back to the...
Well, yes and no, because since I'm 4.5 miles in, back when I was checking that out, it was going to be something like $30,000 or $40,000 to bring wires to the house, and then I get an electric bill on top of that. So not bringing the wires to the house cost justified the entire energy system in one shot. All right, it was way cheaper. I saved more money by installing the energy system first and not bringing the wires in than I would have if I had brought the wires in and then tried to add renewable on top of that. Just way cheaper, just forget the wires entirely.
So how'd you get into this in the first place?
I've always been a techie guy. I've always been a techie guy, and I enjoy techie stuff. And I've also been an outdoors person. I've also been a person who's aware of many of the social and political and economic and environmental issues that have been going on for years and years and years. And this stuff just works. I was a guide in wilderness area called the Quetico Park in Ontario, Canada for 8 years, and I got used to living off the grid and all that kind of stuff. And we were running a generator back then, and by having land up here and being off the grid, it just made sense to do it. It was very easy to do. I just installed it. It worked.
Do you install systems for other people?
On a small scale, yes. I help other people put their systems in. I've done several of them, some very odd configurations. Every one of them is a custom job. And so I've done, I don't know, probably 6 or 8 installations so far with other people. And they're all working. They're all doing great. And in fact, people who are off the grid are the ones who really need to use renewables, because ask them how much it costs them an hour to run their generator, and they don't know. But if they did know, they would find out that by far, absolutely, they should go to renewable energy. It's way cheaper than running their generator. And I have numbers if you're ever interested.